Welcome all of you at the fourth day of the 31st summer university here at IESC. I'm happy to welcome all of you. My name is Jožef. I will be the chair of that panel, which is not an average panel because, as you can see, we are two here. But we have nice participants which are connected to us to the online space via Zoom. So the title of that panel is Future of Universities at Future Europe, which is somehow a kind of hot topic, of course, but this is not a new topic because a debate to figure out what is the future of the universities just has started at the last decade of the last century, before the millennium, and still it's an ongoing conversation because we can't find solution just quickly. So that's the topic is really interesting. I won't go to the details because I think all of you somehow connected to that topic because you are students, scholar, university leader or teacher, so anybody or everybody here at the room has a kind of personal experience or personal, not just experience, but maybe some special thought to share. The panel will be, as I said, a bit not average comparing to other panels of the conference. And first I will introduce my fellow here. And after that, we will start with this presentation. So I'm happy to introduce first that nice lady just beside me, Veronika Wittmann. She's Associate Professor of Global Studies at the Faculty of Social and Economic Science at Johannes Kepler University from Linz. So give a hands to her. Clap your hands. And let's introduce professors and experts who are connected to us at the online. First, Professor Ludvik Toplak from Slovenia. He is standing there, and he is a law professor and rector of the Alma Mater European University and former rector of the University of Maribor. The second one is Professor Damir Boras from Croatia. He is information scientist and he was served as a rector of University of Zagreb between 2014 and 2022. So give your hands for him as well. The next presenter will be Mr. David Locke from Bologna, from Italy. He is an international higher education specialist and university leader expert who served as the Secretary General of the Magna Charta Observatory based in Bologna. Please applause him as well. His presentation will be followed by a presentation by Professor Aleksander Zidanšek from Slovenia. He's a professor of physics at University of Maribor and Secretary General of the Jožef Stefan International Postgraduate School there. I think he is sitting as well at this stage, as you can see. Yes. The schedule of the panel will be the next. So the first, Professor Ludvik Toplak will has his speech or presentation. It will be followed by Damir Boras, and after that David Locke. After every presentation we'll have a small Q&A session because the gentleman has a limitation regarding the time, so they have to leave us around 11 or a bit past of 11. And this is not an unkind, not an unpolite situation, but the final presenter will be, as a keynote speaker, Veronika, just beside me. So after her speech, we will open the discussion here at the room so everybody has the possibility to talk to. Yes, thank you. And this is Ferenc Myslivec. Who will be help me to run the panel in the right way. Thank you very much. So, Professor Toplak, can you hear us? Thank you. So, the floor is yours. Floor is yours. Please give us your speech.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, best regards from Maribor, from Alma Mater Europaea University. Special regards to the organizers, to Kösek, Professor Ferenc Mislovec, and congratulations. Thank you for the trust and for the opportunity to speak some words about the universities yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I would personally focus especially on the economic, organizational, and some legal aspects of the universities. And we could see that the concept of the university has been changed through the history with the development of social, economic, technological, and otherwise circumstances. Over the 250 years ago, since universities on the European continent have been nationalized, the continent has been characterized primarily by the state universities, which were declaratory autonomous, but in reality highly dependent on the current political authorities that finance them. In Anglo-American world, universities remained declaratory autonomy, and as a rule still they operate today as foundations, thereby preserving their economic, academic, and organizational autonomy. The market compels them to compete, which is an important driver of quality. The market also compels them to remain relevant. Therefore, they are connected with the business and technological systems and forced to operate economically and rationally. The year 1945 marked a historical turning point as a reaction to the century of the etatization through the process of subsidiarity, meaning that all social relevant issues should be resolved at the lowest effective possible level. In politics, it is named parliamentary democracy, in law, human rights, in economic, free market, in the academic sphere, it is reflected in institutional university autonomy and academic rights, including the freedom of science, scientific and artistic creation. In modern time, university autonomy was officially declared through the signing of the Magna Charta Universitatum in Bologna 88, where rectors declared autonomy. Declaration was signed repressing a compromise between dialogue between universities and politics in Europe was going on for 11 years. 99 university ministers signed the so-called Bologna Declaration. And the Bologna Declaration, in fact, was a compromise between the universities and politics, universities who declared autonomy and politics who offers the money to the universities. And in politics they require a responsibility of the universities. That's why with the Bologna Declaration there've been announced some principles of the Bologna process, like autonomy with responsibility, compatibility, mobility, rationality, and employability of the students. In the year 2000, there was founded Magna Carta Observatory, established in Bologna the year 2000, and it's a great honor having here today Professor David Locke, President of the Magna Carta Observatory. Today we see the Europe's role among the Nobel Prize laureates. In fact, Europeans are only symbolic. As well, according to the university ranking published last week, only one European university from Zurich is among the top 20 universities, and none from the European Union, and 5 from China and Hong Kong. During the process of de-etatization after 1990, Europe witnessed the release of the creative energy of individuals, corporations, professional associations, local communities, which in accordance with the principle of subsidiarity established universities to stimulate competition and as well quality. Today there is in Europe approximately 85% of state universities and 15% of so-called private universities. Today European universities face new contradictions and challenges such as digitalization and artificial intelligence in research, teaching, assessment of knowledge, and new market needs requiring new competences. And second, global market and internationalization that introduced international as well global competition. Economic stability and rational spending of the finance at the university. There is the question, the proper investment relations between basic and so-called applied research. Demographic trends in Europe is one crucial question because of the aging people as well need for the lifelong learning and mobility of students and teachers. And next, a responsibility of the universities and academic staff for the academic and socio-democratic development of society. And finally, we could conclude that with regard to the future of the universities in Europe, it is essential that Europe cultivate a culture of university autonomy and as well freedom, academic freedom for scientists and artists. And second, Magna Carta Observatory should serve as a guarantor of the protection of the university autonomy and academic rights. And next, it is necessary to make a use of academic material and moral potentials, as well as the human and material resources on the national and international level, and make academic, social, cultural, and material cooperation among the universities should be supported. And finally, artificial intelligence as a new tool should be introduced at all levels and for the generation of creativeness and as well human spirit. For the use of new digital tools and artificial intelligence, it is necessary to provide education and training for teachers and students to ensure the responsible use of the modern tools, especially artificial intelligence, for the benefit of the human being as the central value of the society. Thank you.
Professor Dr. Ludvik Toplak, thank you very much for your meaningful thoughts. And I would like to give the microphone to next to you, Professor Damir Boras, and after that we can find a kind of Q&A after this presentation. So, Professor Damir Boras, please, floor is yours.
Thank you. Just you need to wait a few seconds that my technicians put my presentations on the. Okay, it's that. Yeah. Thank you. I greet all of participants, and I will speak about not curricula, and because that's obvious, use of artificial intelligence and so on. But I will a little bit say from my experience, which are four main factors which will influence the future of universities, particularly in Eastern and Southeastern Europe. And I believe that there are four factors of that. One is our alliances, European alliances. Other is behavior of governments towards autonomy of universities. The third is influence and, let's say, hindrance which present unions of employees, trade unions in science and education. And the last is how we will have, I need to remember just a little bit. Financing, of course, excuse me, because financing is, from my experience, one thing which will influence and affect public universities. So, of these factors, from my experience, European alliances are most important because transform universities from national to European institutions. They accelerate, as you see, institutional innovation, and they create new geopolitical and societal and, of course, cultural roles of universities. These alliances are reshaping how universities collaborate, innovate, and serve society. Here we have 8 public universities in Croatia. These are only just to see how they cooperate in European alliances. Only 5 of them, the biggest 5, the largest ones have this alliances, like University of Zagreb, which is 357 years old and has a very nice alliance called European University of Post-Industrial Cities, and where participate 10 universities. Then University of Split, which is the second largest, it is on the coast, and European, and this alliance is very good, and they are reshaping the quality of University of Split, European universities of the sea. Then we have University of Rijeka in young universities for the future of Europe, and University of Zadar, which is only 50 years old, but in fact it shares traditions from the 13th century as the first established university in that part of Europe. So it is very strong, and it has this connections, that means sustainable coastal and urban systems. And University of Osijek, which is in Slovenia, in eastern part next to Croatia, and it is in very agricultural environment, and so they have this cooperation in sustainability, innovation, interdisciplinary cooperation in health and nutrition. But these four next slides are just illustrations how what challenges these universities face in governance and coordination. Sorry, I lost my okay. They have these challenges which obstruct the full engagement in cooperation in these alliances. And this is obviously there's sorry, I lost connection between my screen and this one. We have administrative and financial burden. It returned, okay. And we have also problems in academic integration and joint program, because the laws in Eastern countries are different from laws and financing customs in Western European countries, and we have a lot of problems how to harmonize that. Of course, digital infrastructure and virtual campus is because of formal reasons, but in fact we overcome that after the COVID period 6 years ago. And mobility and community engagement is very important, but we cannot see in all these universities in Croatia how local governments cooperate with them. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate because of ideological reasons, and sometimes they match. So it is unfortunately not in educational sense, but in political sense, not very easy to achieve. And the second one is autonomy of universities, because in many countries, including Croatia, autonomy is constitutional category, and the Constitutional Court has many times declared what it thinks that this autonomy is. But of course, in politics, you can always, when you face very strong universities, politicians don't like them because they think independently. And we have the problem in that. Autonomy is formally recognized, but is in practical implementation is limited. Because we cannot freely employ, when we use the financing, the funds we get from the state, we cannot freely employ new professors, new staff, and we need to get how to say from the ministry allowance for that, and that's not easy. We have, in fact, weak central university administration because faculties are standalone institutions. Decision making is dominated by ministry and not by by faculties as a standalone legal entities, and not by central autonomous universities, because our universities are merely like holdings with faculties, although the financing is by law goes to the universities, not the faculties. And this is a big problem, how to change these relations between universities and not so much with faculties, but mostly with university and politics which want to control the universities as let's say free thinking entities. I would say that like that, yeah. The third most hindering factor is behavior of employee unions or trade unions, so-called unions of employees working in science and education. That means these are not scientists, these are mostly 0.5%, let's say, administrative staff, and which very much influence the behavior of unions. And if we look, these unions have two different roles. One is very good, that means they assure stability of staff, that means of jobs. But from the other side, they hinder restructuring. That means you cannot change the structure of employees, that means professors and so on. If you want to shrink some department which is not very in future very important, you cannot, let's say, say professors, thank you for now, I don't need you anymore, and this is very a big problem, and that is let's say a thing, a behavior which is not seen only in Croatia, but in all Southeast, let's say, Balkans. That means former Yugoslavia, all these countries where these, let's say, socialist communist systems were prevailing. And as overall assessment, as I told, they support positive goals, protect workers' rights, ensure job stability, prevent arbitrary managerial decisions, but also hinder restructuring, resisting centralizations, opposing performance-based systems. You cannot fire, for example, a professor who is not working at all. That's a problem. And for my experience, these kind of unions, which take care mostly of administrative staff, in fact, interests, are the major structural constraint in the restructuring and development of future universities. And as a fourth, the main factor, and this is, I think, it holds for every country in our neighborhood, is financing. For example, you can see that Croatia spent in 2021 4.06% of GDP. That is almost 0.4% less than year former. And this is a big problem. And this is for all education, not only for universities, and universities receive only a portion of this 4%. And the worst thing is that a minister claims that and takes into account all funding from the European Union, which is aimed to overcome the gap between what is needed and what we have now, and that it counts it in a GDP, and that's not in fact the how to say the main. That is not possible. In fact, Croatia in higher education invests much less, and this is a problem. So there are, you can see, there are many reasons why is that. I will just skip to overall evaluation, and that is very, how to say, diplomatically expressed, not raw data, not how to say, what would I say if I would discuss with politicians, but that's for diplomatic reasons. Croatia governmental financing policy for public universities relative to GDP can be characterized as moderate in size, but structurally constrained. Yeah. And less, and if you go to the spending levels for all education is not low, but it's insufficiently targeted, not for higher education. It's not strongly performance-based. That is also a big problem, as I told you, performance-based. That's that because you cannot do anything if some professor is just doing the minimum he is obliged to do. And of course, it is heavily weighted towards salaries. So, and basic operations, that was I told you, that is what I told you, and this limits universities' abilities to compete internationally and fully leverage EU alliances. And as my thoughts about conclusion, I am fully convinced that European university alliances represent a powerful driver of university development in the Europe of future. But drawing on my own experience, not very good, I need to say, as well as on long-standing cooperation with other universities in Bosnia, in Kosovo, even in Serbia, and that means in Eastern and Southeastern Europe, it's clear that several structural challenges remain, and it will remain in future. Speaking about Eastern and Southeastern Europe, the influence of the state on university autonomy, the role of trade unions in shaping university operations, it's a hindrance, and the persistent underfunding of higher education. For these reasons, I believe that achieving meaningful progress, especially for public university, will require a more determined and sustained effort of us. The only way to succeed is through our coordinated and united action. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was really detailed and interesting overview what's going on in your side. I think it was a kind of perfect situation to, after the rector's speech, to see what's going on now, what is the present situation. Before we are going to the next presentation, I think I would like to ask the audience here and maybe audience at the Zoom, is there any question or notes or marks after these two speeches?
Yeah, just the last comment of what the last speaker is. Do you have any concrete experience and examples about recent communications and cooperation between former Yugoslav countries' universities? I mean, anything we can rely on or watch about, or?
Sorry, I didn't hear what, because it was a noise. There was a question or a statement?
I try to repeat. The question was, is there any ongoing cooperation between the former Yugoslavian institution, which could be a good example, and co-production between universities in our area?
Oh, there is a problem in connection, and we just heard some sounds of your utterance of your sentence.
Okay,
Excuse me.
I won't repeat the question again. Maybe because these technical circumstances, maybe I would like ask Professor Zidanšek, who is sitting there, I guess, with you, directors, just give his presentation or speech, and after that we can try again to have a Q&A session with between Maribor and Kőszeg. So, Professor Zidanšek, the floor is yours.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me in the lecture room? We don't have a good sound here with you.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me well?
Perfectly. We can hear you.
Wonderful. First, thank you. I would like to thank the organizers, and particularly Professor Mislevec, for this timely event, because it's really high time that Europe does something with universities. It's a matter of survival. And then the second, I would like to congratulate all the students who chose to come to this event, because it's like your holidays, and you want to learn something, to do something better with your life. And we were talking about universities. I was asked to focus on technical, technological issues. And I think the most important technological issues is actually the motivation of students here. You know, we're talking about wealth of nations, it's 250 years, but what is wealth of universities? It's the students. And in Europe, we particularly lack young people. We don't have enough young people. And those that we have, that's you in the lecture room, we need to ask ourselves, what is my purpose here at the university? What is my purpose in life? Why I do things that I do? Do I want to be replaced by a machine? So do I want to outsource my seminars, my study obligations to some ChatGPT who will do everything perfectly? I will get straight A's. Or do I want to really learn something? So that's basically, that's the first question here, I think. And it goes to every one of you, particularly the students. Do you want to do something out of your life, or do you just want to use ChatGPT for the rest of your life? You know, this technology that is coming, it's not only in Europe, it's everywhere. And it's not only this year. We could predict future, you know. I could give you some predictions that are certainly going to be wrong. You know, from history, we know whoever tried to predict the future, it was usually wrong. But what was right was that the speed of the change is increasing. So what seems really fast change today is going to seem slow tomorrow. And now the question is, how do we keep our balance? How do we keep our advantage in such fast changing world? And here is basically the root, which means that what is my purpose? What are my values? What is my vision? And if I know that, then a lot is possible. And tomorrow, you know, more will be possible than today. We look at this ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, very nice assistant that we have. But also, more is coming. You know, quantum technologies are coming, which means orders of magnitude. So that means the most difficult questions that are impossible today might be possible to solve in maybe 5, 10, 20 years. Nobody knows. And then even better connection, you know, machines. We have silicons, we have humans. But this connection this boundary is going to disappear, which means that biological computers are coming, okay, maybe 15, 20 years, but that's basically the middle of your future working life. You know, if you are students now, you are going to work for 40, probably 50, 60 more years, you know, because also the health technologies are improving, which means that we are going younger at a higher age in the decades to come. So basically, I mean, my main issue here is to challenge you, particularly the students, to really think, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to study? Where do you want to put your mark? And please be assured that the technologies are coming. Technologies are going to help us. They are not going to replace us unless we let ourselves be replaced. So the question is, what do you want? How will you use this progress that's coming for something good, beneficial to the society? And that beneficial means to help each other out, to develop our potential, I think that this is basically the challenge I want to give you, and I would stop here and ask for your questions.
Thank you, Professor Zidanšek. It was a really actual and hot topic what you mentioned about student motivation and different type of emergence technology which changed the game. So this is a technical question. Can you hear us right now?
Yes, now we hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I open the discussion for a small Q&A session. Maybe some student could give an answer. What about their motivation? There are some students. Is there any brave student who could tell something right now? Who is? I can't see. Okay, I try to summarize what we just heard until now. Professor Ludvik Toplak said a kind of social and economical issues, and it was a kind of thing which could be underlined and maybe could be a good topic for a discussion or debate. The fact that the top universities of the world doesn't really seem to a club for the European universities. As he mentioned, only one from Zurich is member of the top 20, which is an issue. I know some other perspective regarding that topic, that type of contest is just a kind of marketing tool and not really a valuable measuring about the quality of the university and academic life. Professor Damir, Boras, it was just, for me, it was absolutely interesting to make a deeper insight about the Croatian higher education life. And I underline here the position of different type of employee unions, which has a bright side and dark side of the activities regarding the acceleration of innovation of institutional level and regarding the transformation from national institution to the European institution. I think it was also a very remarkable opinion. And finally, Professor Zidanšek speech, which was focused on students. I think it's very important because all of us who can somehow participate in the university or academic life without students, this is something not really interesting or important. So we need the students, and the informational society could provide so many other alternative ways a student could be or youngs could be informated around the world. So academic or university just, it seems to me, they are just losing this type of monopoly position to give the students the information and let them to be educated. So it was a kind of summarization of three speeches what we had until now. Is there any comments or remarks or question? Maybe Veronika? Oh yes, we have to use the microphone because without that they can't hear us. Yes. And please talk to the camera because they can see you. Not to the screen, to the camera.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. To the professors, thank you very much for the sharing session in this morning. Okay, my name is Mila. I'm from Indonesia. I am a student here in Budapest, and also I'm a researcher by profession. So actually, I'm interested in the challenges that you bring in your conclusions about what's happening in Europe. Maybe I want to relate it to my country. In Indonesia, one of the problem of the university is their research is not applicable or it's not useful for the industrial purposes. So, but I don't see this as your problem or the conclusion that you bring up in your slides. So, is that not one of the problem in the university here? If that is the case, what is your strategy in connecting between the industry and university? Because this is a huge problem in Indonesia, and they always question us as a researcher or as the academics. You made a lot of research, but we cannot use it, and it's not. Yeah, it's really not useful. And what is it for then? It's just to go to the library and just being forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question? Because we can collect them and after that give the floor to the Maribor studio. Yes, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jewel Kumar Roy. I'm a PhD student, last year PhD student, and as well as I'm an academician. Basically, I studied at UK and now in Europe. I saw the difference between the academic situation in the PhD. Basically, here what I found that there is the gap between the academia and industry, and the contribution in the academic which is not applicable for the industry level for different discipline. But I'm not talking about in general, it is in the disciplinary level. I'm from the business background, so whatever we are researching here in Europe, we cannot see as per the UK or as per the USA, they can implement that research to the industry level. So here I found that gap. So how can we reduce that gap in future in European academic research?
Other question or notes? Okay, so I would like to ask Maribor Studio to reflect after the two nice questions and notes.
Okay, maybe I can just answer in terms of Croatian, let's say, experiences. We have problem connecting universities with industry, because in Croatia, industry pays all taxes for every cooperation with universities. And this investment is not tax deductible. So they are reluctant to invest more money and finance research, because they cannot deduct that from taxes. It's one of reasons. Of course, the other is not good productivity in industry in Croatia, but in fact, government didn't do too much to overcome this gap and problem. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, no. I can. And Ferenc has a comment.
Just to dynamize a little bit this discussion, yeah. Well, we are sitting here the 31st time in Kőszeg, the Summer University, which is a very, very interdisciplinary colloque, a set of conversations and keynote speeches, and it seems to me that for 30 years everyone is enjoying it very much. But my observation is that because students are coming from different kinds of the world lately, in the last 5 to 10 years more, from outside Europe. So Europeans are showing very little interest about each other's problems. It is very much true for Central Europeans. What's interesting statistics, we have two students coming from Slovakia now. We have one Ukrainian student, but several from Kazakhstan, etc. But it's no problem. The problem is, I think, with us, that our universities, small and middle-sized Central East European countries, former Yugoslavia, we are getting more and more inward-looking. Meanwhile, we are accepting more and more from the European integration. That's a basic contradiction. Yeah. Just give you an example. One of the most well-known universities in Hungary is Corvinus, where students started to revolt now, students and young faculty, against this kind of how to say it, corporatized kind of version of university structure, that the university council or the curatorium is led by people who are actually representing business interests, and a very different kind of thinking than what you are talking about, what is academic freedom. Okay, but their first point it was recently, the last 2 weeks, is that it should not be possible that there are courses at this leading university of Hungary only in English. So they want to bring back Hungarian language I mean, in our global world, yeah, that is a problem of students that they want to listen to lectures in Hungarian. And I guess you have problem like this in Croatia and in Slovakia too. That it is universities as institutions are getting more and more conservative and kind of defending, meanwhile expecting more and more from the outside world. Yeah, they like to have, of course, guest professors. Professors like to be involved in European projects, but somehow I think it's a kind of sharpening and deepening contradiction. Maybe I'm too provocative, but I would like to know about your experience.
Thank you. Professor Setmaribor, the floor is yours again.
Thank you. Yeah, these are really important points. I mean, both from Professor Mislevitz now and from the students earlier. You know, if you remember a little bit of history, it was about 2 decades ago that Europe adopted the Lisbon strategy, and they said, we are going to become the most dynamic, knowledge-based society in the world. And what happened in these 2 decades since was that Europe was just lagging behind the United States and China. So everybody is overtaking us from all sides. So that was great strategy, but not a good implementation. So this is like European position. But what actually is the challenge? I mean, from our experience, we have had now 2 Erasmus Mundus projects. That's like 25 students. They come from all continents, from, I don't know, 10, 12 countries, which is also different cultural experience for some of them. But then at the end, they kind of fit together and they really produce wonderful results. So our professors like them a lot because they say they're really active students. It's easy to communicate with them. And the lack of this, we're talking about the industry and academia cooperation. We've been talking about this for a long time, but during this time that we are talking here in Europe, the Americans and Chinese are just sprinting past by us and are overtaking us everywhere. And I mean, my personal feeling is that the basic trouble is communication. Communication between people in the academia, between people in academia and real sector. You know, if you have somebody in industry and somebody in academia and they can talk to each other and they understand each other, then they will find something that is useful. I mean, it's easy to say, it's not useful for me. But in order to find something useful, you must really work on your communication, figure out what the other person is saying, what the other person is doing, and find something. You know, it's not wait that something useful will just hit you. You need to search for it, because what you search, that you find.
Thank you. I think we can go on, and I'd like to ask Professor David Locke to give his presentation or his speech. Mr. Locke, floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Chair. And could I also thank Ludvik Toplak for the wonderful introduction to the Magna Carta Observatory, which will serve to shorten what I have to say. Thank you for that. And can I also say, as you will know because it's written in your program, that the examination question that your panel has been given is extremely long. And so consequently, what I'm going to do is to assert that having a diversity of institutions within the university sector is a great strength. And then I am going to focus on how universities, wherever they are in that diversity, might address the challenges that they are facing at the moment. Now, just briefly before I start, I have the pleasure of heading the Magna Carta Observatory. It's a very small body. You are looking at half its staff, and I am half time. And we have the responsibility to oversee the Magna Carta Universitatum. Now, that was first written in 1988, before the fall of the Berlin Wall. And it was written at a time when universities, particularly in Europe, were experiencing challenging times and were coming under pressure from their governments, who were seeking to make inroads into their autonomy in various ways and limit their academic freedom. After 32 years, it was revised in 2020 and has now been signed by over 1,000 universities from 94 different countries. Now, the key principles set out in the Magna Carta, which is a very small document, it only takes 2 pages to set it down, is that universities should be autonomous and intellectually and morally free from all political influence and economic power. Teaching and research should be inseparable, with students engaged in the search for knowledge and greater understanding. There should be free inquiry and debate, with openness to dialogue and rejection of intolerance. And universities should serve society and have a reliable social contract with civil society to promote health, prosperity, and enlightenment around the world. So what does that mean for us universities in addressing the various challenges which we've heard about earlier on this morning? What we think it means is that those fundamental values and other values which you may have adopted particularly for your university are becoming increasingly important. Now, why is that? 4 points. Universities today face tremendous complexity and uncertainty. That's due, I think, to the increasingly varied expectations of international and more numerous international, more numerous, diverse external stakeholders. The changing dynamics of national and international politics, increased competition for students and funding, and challenges arising from internationalization and the rapid evolution of technology and communications. These challenges affect universities across the globe, regardless of their traditions, cultures, styles of operating and missions. They impact both traditional collegial models in which academics are the most influential, as well as the more centrally led universities. Values, of course, have been at the heart of universities since their formation and remain an essential tool in dealing with these challenges, offering universities guidance for their conduct and decision-making. Whether it is the traditional and more fundamental values of autonomy and academic freedom, social responsibility towards their community, or other values specific to institutional missions, values are crucial to helping university understand themselves and communicate that identity and mission to stakeholders. Now, to create and maintain public trust in universities amid today's complexity and uncertainty, universities need to define their values explicitly, clearly communicate them to their staff, students, and stakeholders, and demonstrate that their values inform practice and decision-making. Now, what sort of things do we mean by values? And I'm not going to read the entire Magna Carta, even though it's only 2 pages, but I am going to pick out some examples. The first is that the world has become interconnected in ways unimaginable at the time it was originally written. Universities have proliferated around the globe. They've dramatically increased in variety as well as their scope and mission. Globally, the number and diversity of students seeking a university education has increased phenomenally. And there are reasons for doing that. And the expectations of them and their families have widened considerably. At the same time, trust in academia is being eroded by a loss of confidence in expertise. New technologies, new modes of learning, teaching and research are changing rapidly what universities used to do and used to do well. Universities are both leading and responding to those developments. And the university needs to see itself as a positive agent of change and transformation. Now, universities acknowledge that they have a responsibility to engage with and respond to the aspirations of the challenges of the world and to the communities they serve, to benefit humanity and contribute to sustainability. There are some excellent examples of this. Although it was unpleasant for all of us, the way in which universities responded together and so quickly to the COVID pandemic is something which brought them to notice and emphasized their importance. The way universities are engaging with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations is also a cause for celebration, even though there is still a huge job to do. Universities question dogmas and established doctrines and encourage critical thinking in all students and scholars. This is vitally important. We see how social media can enable things to be communicated more quickly, give prime ministers less time to respond to things, and so on. Universities have a civic role and responsibility. They are part of global collegial networks of scientific inquiry and scholarship, building on the shared bodies of knowledge and contributing to their further development. Earlier on, we were talking about the importance of alliances. They are even more important now than they ever have been. And while we are looking globally, we are embedded in our local cultures, and we need to be relevant to them and their future as much as we do to the global issues. There is much more that I can say. I'll just conclude with 2 points. Firstly, traditionally, we saw young people typically aged between 18 and 22, maybe a little more, as our client group. The pace at which technology is changing, the number of changes of role which we can expect to have during our working lifetime, means that higher education needs to think much more about becoming a lifelong activity. And universities need to think about how they continue to engage with their graduates. And finally, I don't just want to set out some of the problems and some approaches to those problems. I also want to say that Magna Carta is actually doing something about it. We have developed something called the Living Values Project. It does what it says on the tin. Those values are living, and we need to make them alive. And to help universities do that, we are starting a new capacity building program on the 13th of October in Lithuania. If you look at our website, you will see details of that, and we hope that that will be fully subscribed and helpful to universities around the globe. Thank you again for your invitation. I'm very happy to take questions.
Professor Locke, thank you very much for your wisdom words. And before the Q&A session, I'd like to ask Veronika to give her presentation, because that's the way as we can keep the attention of Maribor studio with Professor Toplak and Boras and Zidanšek. And after that, the discussion will be open. And I will back to you because your speech raised me some questions, but now the floor is Veronika Wittmann.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to stand up. I think it's okay. I asked their permittance to do so. Let me just say before I start with my presentation, there is a book on the future university in Central and Eastern Europe, including an article by Professor Ferenc, Professor Jody. Very, very interesting book. It's excellent food for the thought. And I found it very interesting because a large part, what I will tell you now, which I developed from a different angle, because we were looking at a curricular development, the same kind of ideas that you actually mentioned in this book. I will give it through. Very, very interesting to read. Please have a look at it. We had a lot of discussions already on some of the topics. What I would like to present to you is a joint collaboration with me coming from global studies, having a sociology background, and I work quite a lot with colleagues from natural scientists. And the curricula which we developed here had predominantly the angle, the perspective, what is the young generation needed? What do they need in order to develop resilience on their path in life? That was the main angle. Professor Dieter Meissner, the colleague I worked with, is a professor of chemistry. And we were just sitting and discussing what are the most important global issues that the young generation actually is confronted with. And this is just the way how we developed a transdisciplinary approach to addressing global risks. The United Nations University that you find in the subtitle here, this is just an idea. It can be implemented at any university in the world, actually. The main idea behind is we work in a cross-disciplinary way with a global perspective. And of course, we had faculties in our mind, but literally it can be changed to anywhere in the world. Just to mention a few words, I think it has already been mentioned by previous speakers, the embedded understanding of science that we laid as the ground of this curriculum was, of course, science is a global public good. It has been mentioned by the International Science Council. Science is as well, and I think this is a lot the European discussion at the moment, a form of a soft power. We don't only have hard power, we have soft power. That can be the soft power of a specific country, of a specific region, of a whole continent, or even the soft power of humanity. This is something we had in mind when we developed the plan. And of course, science always had and will always have problem-solving expertise. And this problem-solving expertise, and this is a very close friend of mine, a colleague I worked very long time with, Franz Nuscheler, he mentioned here in this quote the time perspective of science, that science is in the search for solution to problems. Science must think beyond what is currently possible. This is very, very important. We don't need to look only 2 years ahead. We need to look generations ahead. And even I always think of Immanuel Kant writing Perpetual Peace 230 years ago, in time of absolute monarchy. And I'm sure his fellow colleagues say that this guy is crazy talking of a federation of free republics. But we have it nowadays. We have the United Nations, including all the dilemma and stuff we know about the UN, but it is there. It was established. So don't give up thinking, like ESK says, think outside the box. The same would apply to the space, of course. I quote Luis Pastor here, science knows no country, because knowledge belongs to humanity, and it's the torch which illuminates the world. And the freedom of science, it was mentioned before, is a very, very precious asset. It's not something given to you on a silver plate and it's going to stay there forever. You need to defend it. You need to fight for it. This is all not like there to stay for you if you don't really think and take caution of it. Why do we address global risks? We work quite a lot in our teaching with the Global Risk Report by the World Economic Forum. I think it's a huge fundus, having excellent graphics. And here on the graphic, this is from this year's report, the global risks ranked by severity. And you clearly see in a long-term perspective on the right side, 5 out of 10 global risks are environmental risks. And all of you know the audience at the World Economic Forum is a diverse audience. It's not only academics, you have people from the media, from business, journalists, you have real politicians, and so on and so on. So it gives a broader angle what the global risks we are facing actually are. And in any future scenario, we put this at the core. So the world at risk is at the core of our ideas. Regarding environmental issues or environmental risk, we have a long history of scientists. Of course, our colleagues from natural science were at the forefront. On this graphic, you actually see the ecological footprint of mankind via the biocapacity of our planet. And you can clearly see from the year 1970 onward, we actually live on deficit spending. That means humanity would need more than one planet. And I mean, it's a fact. The planet can do pretty well without us, but we depend on the planet. Elon Musk might disagree with me and think, oh, I can go to Mars or whatever. This is not a solution for 8 billion people living on Earth, no. But of course, this deficit spending, you see the gap is getting wider and wider. Just to mention where science and policy and international organizations cross quite a lot. We have famous publication of Limits to Growth, published in 1972 by Dennis Mathers and others, already pointing to these planetary boundaries that we still discuss and talk about nowadays. We have at UN level, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. We had several conferences. We had the famous publication, Our Common Future, the so-called Gro Harlem Brundtland Report, 1987. So scientists actually since a long time, and this is something the scientists, world scientists do actually every year, they are giving an warning of climate emergency. 11,000 scientists across the globe, not coming from one specific region or the other, across the globe. I'm always signing there as well. And an article published in the prestigious Journal of Science just refers, I think this is a little bit spooky actually, that if we exceed 1.7 global warming could trigger multiple climate tipping points. And the time limit, the window that we can actually change with is very, very slow. These scientists say, okay, the year 2030, this is 3.5 years to come, and then we will have 4 tipping points on our planet where we can discuss of governance structures. We will not be managing anything anymore because we as humans, we cannot intervene anymore. We just need to reconsider and understand ourselves as one species among 80 million on this planet. Maybe just to mention 2 aspects. We're living on Europe. I'm always traveling outside of Europe. The way I look at Europe is always from a global perspective and being proud European. This is a beautiful continent. We have this legacy. You've been talking on this cultural legacy. We are the continent of enlightenment. Don't forget this. talk on soft power as well. This is for a long-term perspective, I think, much, much more sustainable than anything else. And Europe was always famous on soft power. There is this notion the colleagues from law faculties talk about of human security. Not only states have security issues, simply we as humans have security issues. This is all falling under the category of human security. And of course, it is clear that global warming intensifies already existing conflicts, and we've seen violent conflicts. We've seen a lot of book publication on climate wars, actually. The left photo you see here is taken from a refugee camp in Sudan in the province of Darfur, which we have been labeling as the first climate war the world has seen, but there will be many more to come, actually. And of course, this is always happening in parts of the world where we have anyhow a fragility of power structures, of power states. So it actually weakens already fragile states. And in the middle you see, might think of maybe your next holiday destination. This is the state of Tuvalu. Tuvalu will disappear, sorry, I'm always switching to French, will disappear in really quick time, and we will have the first digital nation in the world. That is, we need to rethink what does it mean for a state that does not have a territory anymore because of the rising sea level. Then we have the first state in the world with no territory. It's gone in the ocean. This is a reality. The same, the map you see here with some of the focal points of desertification, scarcity of water, and of course, environmental induced migration. The United Nations estimate more than 200 million people in the middle of the century. The World Bank statistics are even higher. They estimate 214 million people being on the move because of environmental risks. And this is the vast majority of people being on the move now. It's not because of wars or violent conflicts, it's because of environmental risks. And this is something already actually taking place. And in the long run, I think Europe is, in a strategically way, need to think about it, because that would endanger all the political systems and the stability of political systems. I will not go into detail with the curriculum. I have it with me. We would be happy to share it among any university who say maybe it's a nice idea to pop it up. I will be very short about it. The main assumption here is, as risks globalize, science needs to globalize as well. And of course, university is part and parcel of science. And the most precious thing is the young generation. What are the competences that we can linger on to the young generation? And we've developed, and it was so interesting, it was always mentioned in the book as well, no, a holistic toolkit. We were looking from law faculty, from social science, economics faculty to natural science. We are used to work across these disciplines out of these silo containers. We developed a plan focusing on sustainability issues, on science diplomacy. I will come to this point as well. I already mentioned human security as an agenda of international law, including environmental studies and engineering and technological competences. Very, very important in states of the global south that are having the main burden of these environmental risks. I mean, I'm just looking to you, Bangladesh. Now we'll have severe troubles with the land issue. No, it's a huge, huge topic in various parts of the world. So we had in mind that students acquire synergistic knowledge to analyze and act on complex, interconnected problems, and not only to look in a small angle at the world. How do we address transdisciplinarity? We have experts here like Jody working since a long time on transdisciplinary. We had in mind this cross-sector collaboration between academia and international organization. This is the moment science diplomacy pops in. We have excellent diplomats in Europe who work for science, for environment. We in academia, we can gather evidence-based fact, but we need diplomats who need to talk to the real politicians, and they can sign the treaties and so on. So this is a very important interface. Of course, industry, you need to get industry on board. This is something that was already mentioned by Kofi Annan. No, he was talking on the Global Compact. He said states alone won't manage. We need to have business people on board, and of course public institutions. Why our program would fit perfectly at United Nations University, 2 of the 4 clusters mentioned at United Nations University talk on peace and security. Of course, this is the bottom part of UN, why it was developed, and climate change and environment. And of course, in academia, crossing the sectors here, we can find evidence-based solutions for a sustainable future. And a sustainable future is a peaceful future. I would equitate the 2 terms actually really to a same understanding. The curriculum developed here, I mentioned, it's cross-sector collaboration. It looks at future-orientated strategies. We have specific model courses where students are asked to develop future scenarios. And of course, and this is, I think, one of the main competences, I'm looking at the young people here, you need to have for navigating this ship in a successful way, resilience. It was mentioned before, don't give up hope. In science, we always look for problem-solving expertise. And scientists did this since long time ago. So even if there might be some dark days, don't give up this strengthness of science. We can develop something together. And this is, of course, if you're resilient, you are just strengthening your own competence. So the proposed curriculum serves as a guide for United Nations University, any other university might be taking up these ideas, seeking to strengthen their role in addressing global risks and advancing sustainability, and of course preparing a new generation of professionals to navigate in an increasingly, and it was mentioned before, complex and uncertain world. We cannot propose you a bright future where everything will be easy, but we can give you some tools in your hands that you are resilient. And hopefully you see here the ship of Noah's Ark, that we managed to save the planet and humanity to navigate in a peaceful way. I'm coming to my conclusions. It is clear that we have a shifting global orders. We see this multipolar configuration of power. We see polycrisis, these intertwined global risks that we put here at the core. They demand, of course, a cooperative and an international response. It's simply not enough if Belgium and Luxembourg say something is very nice, we need to cooperate. The same, I would say, would refer to Europe. I'm saying it once again, I'm a convinced European. I'm so often in other regions of the world which are not so cozy. And in Europe, we have the highest human development index still. We have still freedom of speech. We are allowed to say something. This is something not all the countries in the world have, so we have a lot to lose, actually. And we're having the most consolidated democracies. Of course, Europe has very uneven adaptation to this crisis, but Europe needs to speak with one voice. Otherwise, we are lost on the global arena. I would absolutely say this. And it's been mentioned by you, Ferenc, before in your comment. I would regard Eurocentrism as one of the biggest hindrances for collaboration. Europe needs to work very, very hard and try to find cooperation partners, be it Brazil, be it on the huge developing Asian continent, be it South Africa, whatever you name it. But you need to work hard and you need to find collaborative cooperation. And then things work out. What I see as another danger besides Eurocentrism is, of course, we have populist regimes popping up in all parts of the world, and this anti-enlightenment realpolitik is endangering science and academia. You know, losing this confidence, it was mentioned before. This is a real, real danger, that we don't talk of facts anymore, but we are just popping up some, I don't want to mention some presidents of the world who are excellent in putting some nonsense on social media, besides any facts. So the curriculum developed here, and I say it again, we are happy to share it among whoever wants to establish such a curriculum, is a small cornerstone to give a little bit of a compass in this uncertain world. And of course, it should be used as a source of inspiration, how university can actually face in a positive way the current challenges. And as I said before, the main idea is to give strength to a younger generation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Veronika. Thank you so much. Before to start the discussion, I'd like to talk to professors at Maribor Studio, because as I know they have to leave just a few minutes, and I'd like to ask them if they have any kind of closing remarks or reflection of Veronika's speech. Please do that. Floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. I would like to give one message, that there is a philosophical question of a principle of subsidiarity of the academic sphere in Europe. Subsidiarity is a general principle of democratic society, and it has been developed in different spheres, as it mentioned, in the politics, in human society, in economics, and as well in academic sphere. And that's why we have to think how to explore all academic and intellectual and cultural potentials of any nation, and to include them to the educational process, including material resources. As far as university is concerned, university is between the academic autonomy and academic rights, and between the state. And today, there is a stronger and stronger so-called, especially in post-socialist countries, as mentioned Professor Boras, trade unions. It means that average are prevailing, or at least have a strong influence and strong power at the university, and as well strong power but no responsibility. That's why academic sphere should undertake its responsibility to organize it bottom up and to explore all potentials, human and materials. Thank you.
I would like to join Professor Toplak for this wonderful conclusion, and also with gratitude for all these wonderful presentations we heard today. I would like to end with a challenge to students. It's not that I say this lightly, that you are the future, but this future is created now, in this moment, with a decision. So what I would like to challenge you is to decide to do something useful for you and for other people, and to decide that you will never stop learning and stop bringing your dreams into this world to make it better.
Okay. Thank you. I can add, and I join, of course, what Peter and Professor Toplak had said. When I was first elected rector, I declared that we need to return in our societies. I called them biblical values. That means European values, because as we see, we have today the world full of selfishness, which they called assertiveness, but it's not that. And people need to understand others and see that the others' development is also ours development. And these are values we have to stick, and these values are not anymore so prevailing in European society. And universities are places where we need to teach and to implement these, and with our behavior we shall influence our students for the future of Europe. That means togetherness. Thank you.
Thank you very much again. Especially thank to Alma Mater and Luca, our friend who was here and gave an interesting lecture, and Director Toplak to organize this, because I'm not sure everyone understood that this is a kind of a seminar or workshop which was actually organized by Alma Mater. So it's a hybrid way to start cooperation, and I think it's a good start, and thank you for your very valuable points and lectures. But now I think we should move further a little bit. We are referring too much on students, but we are missing the students. Or either they are here and not very much eager to make their comments, or they're not here. And that is something, and it's not just today here now in Közseg, in general. I think we have to face this problem that the last couple of decades, I think since the EU Eastern enlargement, we were not very successful in engaging younger generations. I mean, we in university business, in academic research, world, not very convincing in my humble understanding for younger generations. Why on earth should they be engaged in academia, in research? So what is the plus, the value added? Well, how can they contribute? Okay, you need a diploma, you need maybe a PhD to get a better job. But now I would go back and again thank you for your intro and very, very important introductions, but to Monica's more global approach. As you know, probably everyone, that we are here, I ask, also engaged in establishing a United Nations University Institute. I do not go into details, political, financial, legal, etc. But the very fact that we, a very small institute, even in Central European terms, in this very small city in Közseg, attracted the interest of this global chain is something valuable, something interesting. And the question is now how to continue, how to establish links between global level research, globalization studies, transdisciplinary approach, and the local, if not national, but the local society and local regional economy, etc. needs. But how to try to fill this gap? Because just to establish a little nod, a little niche somewhere in Central Europe to say that, haha, we have the logo of United Nations University, isn't it cool? That does not make much sense to me. The enterprise would be valuable, and this is your point, Veronika, you should maybe elaborate a little bit how to do it. Because the courses you are mentioning are not taught, in my understanding, in the majority of local Eastern Central European universities. The global and transnational, transdisciplinary thinking is not part of the national universities curricula. It's not even in former Eastern Bloc. I've been teaching for 15 years in Bologna University for Lee, and I'm not going to indicate that it was not there either. Even Central European studies was a problem. Yeah? Okay, so how to, and this is also a question to our students, yeah, coming from fantastic universities, yeah, I understand, but how to, There's just a couple of days of experience here, but how to continue? So do you have any idea how to create a knowledge hub, a new kind of, there's a future university, a new version of universities, the multiversity reflections, yeah? Where you don't have to spend 5 to 10 years in one place to get 2 diplomas, let's say, but you can share your knowledge with a lot of other people from Bangladesh to Cape Town and Beijing, if you want.